Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I have two more players to report back to you in regards to this upcoming NBA draft. Tunde Yessoufou out of Baylor, 6'5", 215, small forward shooting guard combination, and Dalen Swain, 6'8", 225 out of Texas, shooting guard, small forward as well. So two guys of the same ilk as it pertains to their position. I did homework on Tunde yesterday and Swain today, and I guess I'll start with Tunde, who is projected on Tankathon to go to the Lakers, 25. I like Tunde a lot because he's a huge body guard. He has a swole frame, and this guy is really powerful. He uses his strength very well, driving at the rim. His three-point balance is pretty good in certain sequences, not in every sequence, but you see where he has fantastic step-back moves, and his footwork is pretty advanced for a guy who's only 20 years of age, I believe, or 19 years old. Still has some developing to do. Could get better working with his left hand, driving at the rim. Could be much better passing the ball. He's not really somebody you're looking to facilitate. But defensively, he's so strong and so quick that he can guard a lot of different players. He reminds me, and of course, this is like the obvious one for most people who watch him. It's like a Anthony Edwards, kind of poor man's Anthony Edwards. You know what I mean? I was coming up with all types of stuff. Ant-Man is Ant-Man, so I call him Caterpillar N-word, or Fly Guy or something like that. You know what I mean? He's a Ant-Man light, and he doesn't have the quick twitch muscles of Ant-Man, but he kind of looks like him when he's running around. Kind of patterns his game after him, even wears his armband in the same spot that Ant-Man does. So clearly, this is somebody who very much looks up to Anthony Edwards. I like Tunde a lot on both ends of the floor, so long as I have facilitators that can get the ball, rim protectors and stuff like that. He's going to be somebody who's going to continue to drive at the rim, get to the line, score well in those situations. Let's look at his numbers. Averaged 32 minutes a game, played 34 games this past season for Baylor, 17 points, 2 steals, 1.6 assists, 5 boards on 74% from the free throw line, 29% from 3, and 46% from the field. So the three-point shooting, I think, is going to improve. I don't expect that he'll be a below average three-point shooter based on what the footage shows me. He's going to have to work on that. But he's capable of hitting the shot. It's not like he's some deficient shooter or nothing like that. He has really good balance, ton of strength, a nice amount of athleticism. Not Anthony Edwards type explosiveness, but explosive enough. And with his big body frame and long arm length, he can have fantastic highlights out there, explosive dunks and stuff like that. Great in the open court, fantastic target in open space on a fast break or something like that. He's tremendous. He's going to, with his foot speed and his strength, be able to finish well around the rim consistently, I'd imagine, as he continues to take on reps. And defensively, like I said, he just pops off the screen. He's a very talented defender. He may be a little more advanced than Ant-Man in certain defensive sequences in comparison to when Ant-Man was his age, 20 years old. Ant-Man now, of course, superstar. But back then, I think you would say Tunde and Ant-Man are probably on par with one another defensively. But I think Tunde kind of stands out a little bit more for me defensively early on. So that's something I will say. Tunde is a very capable defensive player, moves laterally well, leverages his size and his muscular figure well. And just really a devastating player when driving at the rim and in open court. So I think this is a fantastic prospect. Poor man's Ant-Man is still a rich man's something else. He could be really, really good in this league, and I think he's going to be a project. Probably not going to play much his first season. He's going to have to get a lot of reps. He's going to have to be a part of a situation that believes in him. But he can accomplish a lot in this league, in my opinion, as a high-level role guy, or maybe even a starter if he pans out. Don't think he'll be an all-star, but he'll be damn good enough. You know what I mean? A level of a guy like Devin Vassell or something like that, to that degree, to where he's a big-time player on a really good team may not make an all-star team, but certainly is going to be a starter in a lot of situations and a fantastic bench player in a lot of situations. So that's what I see for Tunde. The length, the strength, the size, the ability to guard bigger players and even smaller players with his speed. I watched some highlights of him. I wouldn't say highlights, but some footage of him working out with a one-on-one a situation where he was in the gym with another guy and that guy was having him work. Seems like Tunde appears to learn fast. He's smart. He seems willing to work. He seems like a fun guy to be around, and somebody who takes well to being coached is what I gathered from the footage that I watched. About 20 minutes of him on a one-on-one in a workout situation. That was really, really good content. I encourage people to check that out. I don't remember where I saw it, but if you click on Tunde's name, it's not too far as you scroll in the YouTube process. But Tunde seems like a great kid, a willing worker, somebody who's going to help you in a lot of areas, so long as you don't ask him to do more than what's within his wheelhouse. Never ask him to play make. He's not a passer. He can tend to get tunnel vision a little bit. But I think he can grow in that area as well. And it just seems like a really, really strong player to have at the two-guard spot, man. You're going to have to really deal with this player. There are going to be a lot of people who are not going to be able to keep up with him. And I think that's going to give him an edge as well. He had some big games against big players, too. He is not afraid to guard the best player on the best team. There were sequences where he was guarding the number one guy in this draft. I watched highlights of that specific game between BYU and his Baylor team, and he and DeBonsta were going back and forth. I mean, he was pretty much keeping up with DeBonsta, and in the fourth quarter, he was stringing together three-point shots consistently, and then walked away with, I think, like 35 points or something like that. So Tunde is a big-time guy if he's being showcased and can guard the best player on one end and then be the best player on his own team in a college situation, a big-time, high-profile basketball game. He was the best player on that Baylor team. So Tunde is a guy who can go anywhere from the lottery, somewhere in the 14 range, late lottery, all the way to the second round. It's a vast kind of broadened space from which he could find himself potentially being drafted. He went to St. Joseph High School out here in California somewhere. I'm not sure if it was northern or southern. I don't know. But he's familiar with this state. And he's originally from Benin. And he said that he's half Benin, half Nigerian, African guy. And he has the muscle to show, man. He is definitely a unit of a guard / forward. He could put on even more weight and even more strength, which is scary when you consider it. He's been compared to people like Lou Dort. I didn't really see too much Lou Dort. Latrell Sprewell, so it's a vast thing about where you think he falls, but he's a two-way guy. He definitely can give you some offensive juice, definitely gonna play some defense as well, and that's what I like about Tunde. You can trust that he's going to align with both sides of the floor. So my Lakers, for example, if he's on the board, I'm very happy if you pull him off the board. You know what I mean? I think he would be a fantastic draft pick for us. Probably would not play much his first season, would be an excellent addition to our G League unit, kind of slowly come around, probably play near the end of the season, sort of like we did with some of our other rookies. But he provides you a great deal of two-way talent, strength, rim pressure for certain, and steals the ball at a consistent rate, 2 steals a night. I mean, that's real defense right there. 17 points. 5 boards at 6'5". That's pretty good rebound. He can rebound even better than that in some situations. And he just showed a lot of energy, a lot of motor. His motor was high. You know what I mean? He tends to offensive rebound very well. Particularly, I really like what I saw there. The turnovers were a little much, 1.9 turnovers. For a guy that only averaged 1.6 assists, that's not good. So he's going to have to get better in the turnover area. That's something that really stood out for a lot of people. But I just think that, like I said, this is a project. He's a young guy who's willing to work, who has the big body, who's going to position well for the side, for the league, and you don't have to tell him to get in shape. This is not somebody you got to work to get in the weight room, nothing like that. He's coming in as an absolute unit, probably one of the most muscular shooting guards I've ever seen in a draft. You know what I mean? Guys like this don't come around too often with biceps like that and chest like that. He's ready to go, man. He's ready to go. He should contribute. And I think as he continues to develop his game, he can outplay his draft range. If he's taken in this 25 range, he's going to outplay that at some point down the road. You just have to take your time with him, be patient with him, and not ask him to do more than what he's capable of doing. That's really what it is. If you keep things rather simple from a playmaking perspective, let him be a finisher of plays. He's going to play great with guys who do that. Places that I think he will go, anywhere where there's facilitators. What comes to mind immediately, though I don't see a pick for this team in that range, is Brooklyn. And why I say Brooklyn is because they've picked up so many facilitators at so many different positions that he can grow with. And there are going to be opportunities, because most of those guys are not go-to scorers, for him to do what he does. And he has a leading personality in a way to where if you have him on a team like Brooklyn, where he's playing with facilitators who are going to find him, you're going to have nights where he's going to score 25 points. He's going to have nights where he's going to score 30 points, get to the line. And he could just be a nice cog to a situation like that. While they're developing, he's developing, and as they're tanking, there's no pressure for him to win or anything like that. And over the course of several years, he can be one of many pieces that ultimately make a team like that very formidable. And so that's where I want him to go as it pertains to, I want multiple facilitators around him so that the team cohesiveness is not hurt by his tunnel vision, by his ability to just kind of put his head down. I think about how good Rui fits on our team because we have multiple facilitators all over the floor. Rui's a guy that barely passes the ball at all. He's putting his head down and he's going. But if he's surrounded by Austin, Luka, Bron, Marcus Smart, then it really just allows for him to be himself without what he doesn't do hurting the team. So that's the type of situation I want to see Tunde on. I think he would be fantastic with the Denver Nuggets. Him and Christian Brown would just allow for so much size at that shooting guard position. Tunde is, I don't know that he's the greatest catch and shoot player, but I do think that he's a fantastic target for Jokic, particularly on long throw passes and things like that, slashing at the rim. He would be a finisher, above average finisher at that shooting guard spot. So that would be a great spot for him. Where there's guards, man, I think he would be pretty cool in Charlotte as well, since they could use the size and the ability to bang. They could use a bigger guard at that shooting guard position, kind of offset some of the slight nature of that team. So I think that would be a great spot for him as well. There's a lot of places that Tunde could go and be good, where the pressure is not for him to contribute right away, but you have a path to him getting good minutes in the future and facilitators around him for him to finish plays for them, and a need for defense to help set a culture that can defend. So he's a lot of a good down there. He's a lot of good out there. It's a big body player with some athleticism, some leading mentality juice there, some confidence, and I think he's going to be good for a locker room as well. Just looking at the kid, he looks like he's going to be a really good kid to coach and a good teammate to have. So I'm a fan of Tunde Yessoufou. I think his draft range is pretty fair here, somewhere around the Laker pick at 25. I think it's safe for the fact that he is a project. You're going to have to wait on him, and there are some limitations as it pertains to how his ceiling goes. But there are going to be nights where he's going to look like a star. There's going to be nights where he's going to lead his team in scoring. There's going to be nights where he's going to guard the best player and have some success. So, I think that's what you're drafting. You're waiting on this guy, but he's probably worth the wait. And if you have the right circumstance for him, he'll probably be your starter one day. So, yeah, big fan of Tunde Yessoufou. Definitely a fan. I like what I saw all the way around. As so long as I keep my expectations at a space that is fair for him, I think he'll exceed those expectations for certain. And Swain. Texas Swain is what I call him because he's out of Texas, 6'8", 225. He's projected on here to go 28th. And there's a lot of good there, and there's a lot of room for improvement. The area of improvement that everyone's going to talk about with Swain immediately is the catch and shoot stuff. His three-point shot from behind the arc needs a lot of work. It's just not a good-looking shot. It doesn't fall very much. It's not great. However, when he's in his dribble package stuff and pulls up from behind the arc, it's an entirely different shot. Very strange stuff. Catch and shoot, it's like it has a weird hitch. When he's in his dribble motion, you can tell he's been working on that his whole life. He's used to having the ball in his hands, and whatever he does from behind the arc with the ball in his hands seems to just be a bit more confident for him. He averaged 17 points in Texas this year. After he's a junior at this point, at 20 years of age. Didn't play much in his first 2 years. I don't remember where they said he went, but he wasn't able to showcase himself as much. This year he's had a pretty good season. 2.7 turnovers is a bit much. Some uncharacteristic turnovers is what you see from Swain. 1.6 steals. He's a really nice defender. That's one of the things that definitely stand out. Although there were some motor issues on a certain sequence that I saw, where he wasn't really fighting around screens trying to guard one of the best players on one of the best teams. He didn't look that great. So it's hit or miss as it pertains to how engaged and how focused he's going to be. But when he's focused, he has the ability to be an awesome defender. Some of his, on-ball stuff was just fantastic. So that's what I will say. It's a bit hit or miss as it pertains to whether or not he's going to be engaged or not. But when he is, he could be rather talented defensively. Fantastic driving at the rim. He has such fantastic footwork when he's trying to work his way to the rim. He's good at faking people out, making you think he's going one way and he's going the other way, crossover stuff. Just a fantastic driver at the rim. That's where you're really going to find what makes him special, in my opinion, is the juice at the rim. He averaged like 63% at the rim, so he's an amazing finisher and an elite driver of the basketball. That's what kind of makes him different. Averaged 3 assists, 0.3 blocks, not many blocks out there, but the funny thing was, in the highlights that I watched this morning, he was rather efficient blocking shots. There was more than several shot blocking sequences where you saw Swain, swat, shots. So for him to average 0.3 blocks is a bit strange to me. I think that number heightens in the NBA. At 6'8", 225, the length is there, and he's going to be good defensively. In fact, that may be where he stands out. So that block thing, I don't know what that's about, but he can be better than that, that's for sure. Stealing the ball, that also is something that's very special for him. Jumping in passing lanes, anticipating passes. He's fast, good with his hands, so he's going to steal the ball. I wouldn't be surprised if he ups that to about 2 steals a game when he fully develops, because he just has a knack for taking the basketball from you. Like I said, he's good on the ball. Point of attack stuff look pretty damn solid, so long as you're not asking him to fight around a lot of screens, because that's where he did not show his best stuff. But if the screen isn't there, he can lock your guy up and he's taking the ball from him. So it's kind of strange. He's going to have to work on sequences of fighting around screens. He's going to have to get better at that if he wants to be the elite defender that I think his upside may show he can become. 3 assists a night, 3.9 assists, almost 4 assists, not bad per 36 minutes. 7 boards, 7.5 boards per game, 8.3 rebounds per 36 minutes. So this is a very good rebounder. Length is there, so it helps. 6'8" frame. I saw the comparison that someone said that he may remind them loosely of who is that from the Denver Nuggets? I went to UCLA, who broke out this season. I can't think of a man's name. Maybe when this happens, but he kind of reminds people of that particular piece. I don't think that's too far-fetched. I think that it really comes down to it. The shot blocking stuff that I saw kind of reminded me of him as well. And without the shooting stuff, because I think this player that I'm referring to is a significantly more talented shooter. You're talking about somebody who can really help you defensively, just like the player from UCLA that I'm trying to figure out what the hell his name is, and I'm looking and I'm not finding it as of yet. But Peyton Watson, 6'8", 200-pound Peyton Watson. They're kind of the same length. Peyton Watson is an elite shot blocker, in my opinion, who's broken out in offensive areas, pull-up stuff and all of that. So the shooting is not what I would compare him to, but the open court stuff, some of the driving stuff that Peyton could do, the ball handling that Peyton now shows, and the defensive prowess that Peyton also has, I think is an okay comparison there. Who else did they compare him to? I heard some people who were not so high on him kind of compare him to people that didn't really have much of an offensive game. I think that's a bit of a mistake, because even though the spacing, people are going to leave him open, the reality is he's going to be a pretty damn decent offensive player because of how well he finishes around the rim and because of how elite he is at driving the ball. So when you compare him to people like Thabo Cephalosha or, though I didn't hear this, just for example, somebody like, who comes to mind? The guy on my squad, Vando, for example. Vando's not a great finisher. Vando's not a great driver of the basketball. This guy is. 63% around the rim is nothing to poo-poo at. So even in traffic, he's going to find a way to contribute to the scoring. Even when the spacing's not great, he's still going to find a way to score because he's so good at the rim and he's so good in the open court. So once you guys get a stop, if you're talking about getting in the fast break, you can tip the ball ahead to him and he's going to finish and get the, he finishes through contact pretty decent. I saw a couple sequences where he was fouled and was able to finish. So, this is somebody who's going to be able to get his money at the rim. And there are going to be sequences in the half court where he's not going to be any good. But defense to offensive stuff, that's where he's really going to contribute to scoring early on. So it's going to be tricky because you got to figure out when to put him on the floor and when not to. Because if you're going to be forced into a half court situation, your spacing is going to be terrible until he figures out how to confidently shoot the three-point shot. And he's going to need to work with coaches. It's going to take some time. They're going to have to revamp the entire thing. So the catch and shoot stuff is non-existent. But if you put the ball in his hands at the top of the key, he's going to drive at the rim, score. He had some playmaking stuff at times that he could work with from there. He was good at getting entry passes to his center, who was also a leading player on that Texas squad. So there was several sequences where most of his passing sequences was him getting the ball to that person. And he did some good things off the dribble as well, passing the ball. So he's not deficient passing the ball. As I said, he averaged almost 4 assists a game. So there are going to be ways for him in live ball situations from defense to offense to really contribute to the offense in ways that maybe some guys that he's been compared to, they're not going to be able to do because they're not elite at scoring the ball on the interior. You're going to always be able to get at least 8 points out of a guy like that, dunking and laying up the ball and getting to the line. So that's why I don't want to compare him to guys who can't help you on the offensive end because the numbers don't actually tell you that he's not going to contribute. It's just going to tell you that what he did in college may not translate to the NBA because people are going to leave him open, and spacing is such a thing in the NBA that can't be avoided. As to where in college, you can get away with spacing not being great because a lot of times spacing in college is terrible. So the question is will it translate? That he was effective, he averaged 17 points. So comparing him to Thabo Cephalosha is foolish in that regard. Although they both have some things on the defensive end that make you say, okay, they can make money on the defensive end. And that's why Swain is somebody you take in the first round, in my opinion, because he's so good defensively and he's so good scoring the ball and he's so elite driving the ball that you have to think he's worth developing. If you can get the shot to work out, you may have somebody who's close to an all-star someday. And we've seen players who could not necessarily shoot turn themselves into reasonable or even good shooters. You think of a guy he's been compared to a couple times like OG Anunoby, although he don't have anywhere near the size OG does. As it pertains to bulking up, he's going to have to, hit the weight room hard to even get anywhere near OG Anunoby. But in terms of style of play, OG a guy who can defend, who in draft circumstances couldn't necessarily turn himself into a good shooter, etc. If Swain turns into a good shooter, yeah, you can get some OG Anunoby. In fact, he's more talented driving at the rim and finishing at the rim than OG Anunoby. So it's like you might get something a little higher ceiling than OG if you can turn Swain into a decent shooter. But the project is going to be an extensive one. His catch and shoot stuff is one of the most glaring weaknesses in all of this draft. Like it stands out. It's not good, and it ain't falling. So that's the thing, and a lot of things to consider in regards to how many opportunities is Dalen going to have the ball in his hands, because he's at his best when the ball is in his hands, so that he can get into his footwork and his dribbling stuff and get to the rim. if he's going to be the 5th and 6th option and being asked to stand in a corner, which he may in a lot of situations, that's no good. So the vision that I have for Dalen is either you take him to a team like Brooklyn who can use him for what he does and put the ball in his hands enough of the time for him to operate as a one-man band, scoring at the rim, and then appreciate all the defensive stuff that comes with that. Or you have to put him on a team where you can showcase him with the ball in his hands off of the bench. As to where he's in second units, you put the ball in his hands and let him go while your stars are sitting down. Once the stars come in, you sit him down because he can't play off the ball. But if you have a vision for him leading your second unit as a scorer, that could be a good situation. So I think of a team like the Houston Rockets because their bench could use a lot of everything. There's no reason why you can't kind of mold your bench around him being able to be a scorer off of it. You know what I mean? To where you don't ask him to be off ball. You have all types of facilitators and shooters around him, and you just let him go at the top of the key and let him go. You know what I mean? Or somebody, maybe you can try to mold him to being a secondary ball handler to a degree where there will be plenty of opportunities for him to drive at the rim and showcase his footwork. Because that's really what it's all about. He's making sure he has the ball in his hands. If you don't have an opportunity for him to have the ball, then you shouldn't be drafting this player. Because you're not going to get a whole lot of anything out of him offensively if you're asking him to stand around. It's not happening. He is absolutely useless with the ball out of his hands. It's just that simple. Useless. Until he figures out his jump shot, which is going to be a very serious area of work. And it may not ever work out. So as long as he can, and if it doesn't work out, honestly, I don't think he works out in the NBA. Because again, he's elite with the ball in his hands, and he's fantastic defensively at times, but his defense isn't elite enough to where you keep him on the floor for all that deficient stuff. You know what I'm saying? That's the problem. He's a good defender, but he's not an elite defender to where you'll just live with all the deficiencies and keep him out there. So that's the problem. He has to be in the right spot. And I don't know that spot will be created for him by the team that drafts him. So he absolutely must reinvent his jump shooting and gain a great deal of confidence, and the shot needs to fall when he does. If he doesn't do that, I don't think he's going to be in the league very long. He'll be an excellent overseas guy where they'll be able to put the ball in his hands. He'll be the best guy on the overseas team, but that will be what it is. Because as long as he's in the NBA, he's likely not going to get the ball enough because there's some superstar who's going to get it most of the time, which is not going to get the most out of him. So that's really the problem with Swain. His game seemed to me like it's more fit for the college ranks and the overseas ranks, in a sense that he's going to always be a star in those situations so long as he's the player with the ball in his hands. But once you take it out of his hands and ask him to be a contributor to an NBA offense, then it becomes a situation where his deficiencies glare, his strengths are hidden, and his production becomes far and in between. So that's the problem. That's why I think that I probably take him in the second round, the beginning of the second round, maybe even fall to the middle of the second round, because it just becomes a situation where I don't think enough teams are going to create the path for him to be who he is. Not enough teams are going to be able to create the path. He's elite at what he does, but he also has to develop. And the course of trying to develop him is going to be extremely tricky if he doesn't develop that shot. Now, if he develops that shot, then all of a sudden it opens up everything else. And here you have a player that could potentially be a star. Or some type of version of a starter. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say a star. That may be a little more than what I see there, but he can be a strong contributor to an NBA team if the team is constructed properly around him. It's almost like Ben Simmons in a way, but in a different kind of way, because Ben Simmons really needed everything to be perfect, and if it was structured absolutely perfect around him, then he could go on and be his best. But how many teams are going to do that? How many, especially for a guy that's not a superstar prospect. They didn't want to do it for Ben Simmons. It's going to be very difficult for them to do it for a guy that they're going to take at the end of the first round, second round. So it's so tricky, man. He has to be in the right spot. And the right spot has to be patient with him while he develops. And so it's so many different paths to this thing not working out. And that's the concern about Dylan Swain. So many paths. But if you watch the tape, he pops off the screen. He's an excellent basketball player. That's the thing about it. It's not like he's a bad basketball player or even a reasonably good basketball player. He's a very good basketball player. He was able to be showcased properly on Texas that didn't have anybody better than him on it and didn't have a ball handler creating. So they hardly ever had him off the ball, and because he had the ball in his hands all the time, he was able to do all that great stuff that he's good at. And it translated to great play. So I think that's the only path without him developing the shot that he really has to being a very good NBA player. So that's the problem. Overseas, he's going to be a star. College, he's a star. The NBA, you got to create the environment for him to be showcased, or you pretty much don't have anything at all. And that's the big concern. But he's going to defend well, so long as he keeps his focus on it. Continues to work on what he can do already. That's a strong suit for him. Defense is a strong suit for him. But he's going to have to work on staying focused and fighting around screens and stuff like that. He can't have too many sequences like I saw where he just didn't fight. That can't happen. But the stuff that looked good looked great. And like I said, his footwork driving at the rim is elite. He looks like a superstar when he's driving at the rim. He could do stuff, turn around, his footwork, stuff like that. He can finish with the best of them already. So with the stuff that he's good at, he's good. But with the stuff that he's bad at, it becomes a real problem. And so, yeah, that's really what it is with Dylan Swain, man. The variance between him being fantastic and being nothing is all over the place. And because of it, I probably take him in the second round personally. I probably wait till about the fourth or fifth pick in the second round to feel comfortable with taking. He's, for what it is that he's good at, and you have the right situation for him, you could get away with taking him in the lottery, honestly, with as good as he looks. But if you have to look deeper into what it is that the situation will be once you bring him to your situation. It's not as simple as, oh, he looks nice, the highlights are fantastic, bring him to me. It's like, okay, well, if you understand context of what players are, situations that they're coming into, when you already got a Cade Cunningham or Anthony Edwards or a Luka Doncic on the team, how does he fit in? And when you talk about trying to make a team fit around a Dylan Swain, I don't see too many paths where too many NBA teams are going to fit around him. He's going to have to fit in with them. So that's really what it comes down to, man. That's why I said a team like Brooklyn would be great for him, or a team like Denver, where you got Jokic in the paint, and then when their ball handler sits down, now you could have a use for a guy like that. Play with Jokic, who's going to find him, find others. He can get the ball in his hand, drive, sort of like what we see from Murray. So without the shooting. And so, and with him being 6'8", the Peyton Watson thing, you could kind of see where he could kind of fit in as a defender in that regard too. So that's really what it is, man. Not too many spaces I think he fits in. But if you create the space for him to fit, he's going to be fantastic. And that's what I see there. Dylan Swain, I probably do pass on him in the first round, though. Most people are comfortable taking him at 28, somewhere between 20 and 28. I've heard some say they like him because of the driving stuff in 10 and in the early lottery. Nope. Hell no, I wouldn't do that. But once we start talking about getting into the second round, around 33, 34, that's when I'm like, okay, yeah, we can. If I can create the situation for him, like Brooklyn, for example, the 33rd overall pick, I think that'd be a great spot for him. That would be a great spot for him. So that's just my opinion, man. I could be wrong. I have a lot more to learn about some of these other players near this range. You know what I mean? As into the second round, I'm finding that this draft is fantastic. So Dylan Swain contributes to that very much. The ceiling, the upside, the high end of of a guy like Swain is really, really good. So I'm not mad at people who like him a lot, because I do. It's just, when you're talking about team construction in the NBA, that's an entirely different science. And if you're going to follow that, what the rules are basically, you're probably not going to feel that great about taking him too soon in this draft. Not with the presence of this draft being as strong as it is, and as many players that fit in comfortably on multiple situations, you got to have the right situation. So that's pretty much what I got to say, man. That's my take on Swain and Tunde Yessoufou. I like these prospects a lot. Tunde's going to fit in, I think, easier in a lot of situations than maybe Swain will, but you know, they both have some really strong defensive and offensive strengths that I think can be utilized in the NBA, you know, pretty well. And you know, I wish these players well, man. I think you're gonna get more size with these two coming in the league as well. Length and size, you know, with Tunde's strength, with Swain height and weight, and you know, 225 and 6'8" is pretty solid. It's not, he can put on more weight there. Swain can. So yeah, this is a amazing draft, if you're asking me. Based on what it is I'm learning about each and every one of these prospects, this is the best draft I've ever seen. BDL 44. I thank y'all for watching. I'm out.